The church smelled like fresh lilies and broken dreams that day. I stood in the front pew in my soft lavender maid of honor dress, the one my sister Emma had picked out herself because she said it made my eyes look like the ocean. My heart was so full it felt like it might burst. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. My little sister, the one I'd practically raised after Mom passed, walking down the aisle to the man she swore was her forever. I squeezed my husband Michael's hand. His palm was cold. "It's perfect, isn't it?" I whispered, smiling up at him. He didn't smile back. His jaw was tight, eyes locked on the groom, Tom, who stood at the altar looking every bit the fairy tale prince in his tailored black suit. I thought it was just wedding nerves. If only I had known that in less than 10 minutes, the man I loved more than anything would stand up and shatter everything I believed about our family, and that I would eventually thank him for it with every beat of my shattered heart. Let me take you back, because to understand how we got here, you need to know the life I thought I had. My name is Sarah. I'm 34, a high school literature teacher who still cries at happy endings in books because real life rarely gives them. Michael and I met in college, him the quiet engineering major who fixed my broken laptop with a smile, me the girl who quoted poetry at him until he laughed. We'd been married 7 years, 7 beautiful, steady years. We have a little blue house with a white porch swing, Sunday morning coffee rituals, and inside jokes that still make us giggle like teenagers. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years. Quiet struggles, doctor's visits, tears in the shower, but through it all, Michael held me and whispered, "We'll get our miracle, love. I'm not going anywhere." Emma was my everything else. 6 years younger, wilder, always chasing the spotlight I never needed. After Mom died when I was 20, I became her big sister, mom, and best friend all in one. I helped her through heartbreaks, college applications, her first job. When she met Tom 8 months ago at a charity gala, she called me at 2 a.m. screaming, "Sarah, he's the one! He looks at me like I'm the only woman in the room." Tom was charming, successful, owned a string of boutique coffee shops, drove a sleek silver car, sent flowers to the house just because. He listened when Emma talked about her dreams of opening a bakery. He met our family and fit right in. I wanted to believe it. I did believe it. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of joy I poured my whole heart into. I took Emma dress shopping, 3 boutiques in one day until she found the perfect off-shoulder lace gown that made her look like a princess. We tasted cakes until we were sick on buttercream, vanilla with raspberry filling because that was their flavor. I stayed up until 3 a.m. making seating charts, writing vows for her to read, planning the perfect playlist. Michael helped too, or at least I thought he did. He paid for the photographer without blinking, picked up the flowers when the florist messed up, even practiced his best man toast with me in the kitchen. But something felt off. About 6 weeks before the wedding, Michael started coming home late. He'd say it was work, but his eyes looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with spreadsheets. One night I found him in the study at 1 a.m., laptop open, quickly closing tabs when I walked in. "Just checking some vendor contracts for Emma," he kissed my forehead. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my rock, the man who had held my hand through every fertility appointment, who made me laugh when the world felt heavy. At the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, everything still felt magical. String lights twinkled over the garden. Emma was glowing in her rehearsal dress, laughing with Tom. I caught Michael watching them across the table, his expression unreadable. Later, when we slow danced under the fairy lights, I rested my head on his chest and whispered, "Thank you for being so good to my sister. I love you more than words." He held me tighter than usual, but didn't answer. The next morning, wedding day, Emma hugged me so tight in the bridal suite. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Sarah. You're my hero." I teared up, fixing her veil. "You deserve the world, Em. Today, you get it." We walked into the church, the organ played, Emma floated down the aisle on her uncle's arm. Tom's face lit up, or so I thought. The priest began the ceremony. If anyone here can show just cause why these two should not be lawfully joined together in holy matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace." The words hung in the air like a warning. Michael let go of my hand. He stood up. The entire church went silent. "Actually," he said, voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear, "I can." Gasps rippled through the pews. Emma's face drained of color. Tom's smile froze. Michael reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He opened his phone, connected it to the projector the videographer was using, and the screen behind the altar filled with images, screenshots of messages, bank statements, photos of Tom with other women in other cities. One woman holding a baby that looked just like Tom, another showing wire transfers from Emma's account to an offshore number. The church exploded. Emma screamed, "Michael, what are you doing?" I stood there frozen, the world tilting beneath my feet. My perfect sister's perfect day destroyed in seconds by the man I trusted most. What I didn't know that day would change everything I thought I knew about him. The ride home from the church was silent except for my sobbing. I couldn't even look at Michael. My hands shook as I clutched my phone, trying to call Emma for the 10th time. Straight to voicemail. "How could you?" I finally whispered, voice breaking. "You humiliated her in front of 200 people. Our family, our friends. You destroyed her." Michael kept his eyes on the road, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Sarah, I tried to tell you, for weeks. You didn't want to hear it." I laughed through the tears, bitter and broken. "Tell me what? That you'd been secretly investigating my sister's fiancé like some kind of spy? That you'd ruined the day we planned for months?" He pulled the car over, turned to me. "Tom is a con man, Sarah. He's done this before, 3 times. Leaves women broke, sometimes with kids they didn't know about. I found police reports, victims willing to talk. He was draining Emma's savings account slowly, small transfers she never noticed. And the baby? That little boy in the photo is his son with a woman he abandoned in Seattle 2 years ago." I shook my head, refusing to believe. "You're lying, or jealous, or I don't even know anymore." That night I slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. Emma's texts came in waves, hurt, angry, accusing me of knowing, of letting Michael do this. "You were supposed to protect me," she wrote. "Instead, you married a monster." The next weeks were hell. Emma cut me off completely. She moved out of the apartment Tom had been paying for, with her money, it turns out, and stayed with a friend who believed her version, that Michael was a jealous control freak. Family group chats exploded. Cousins took sides. My aunt called me crying, asking how I could let this happen. I felt shattered, helpless. Every morning I woke up with a weight on my chest, replaying that moment in the church. I questioned everything: my marriage, my judgment, my role as the strong big sister. I cried in the school bathroom between classes. At home I avoided Michael, eating dinner in silence while he sat across from me, eyes full of pain I refused to see. One night I screamed at him, "You destroyed my sister's life. Was it worth it? Do you feel like a hero now?" He didn't yell back. He just said quietly, "I did it to protect you both. You'll see." I wanted to believe him. Part of me still loved him so much it hurt, but the betrayal felt too deep. The man who was supposed to stand by my side had publicly torn my family apart. Then the first cracks in the truth started to show. 2 weeks after the wedding that was not, a woman named Rachel contacted me through Facebook. She had seen the local news story about the disrupted wedding. She was one of Tom's previous victims. She sent me documents, court filings, messages where Tom promised her the world, then cleaned out her savings and disappeared. "Your sister dodged a bullet, but your husband, he saved her." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Michael had been right about the cheating, about the debts, but I still clung to anger. Emma finally agreed to meet me at a coffee shop, neutral ground. She looked thinner, eyes red-rimmed. I loved him, Sarah. I thought he was everything. Her voice cracked. And your husband took that from me in the worst way possible. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. He showed me screenshots that night, messages Tom sent to other women while we were engaged, a bank app showing transfers I never made. I didn't want to believe it, but the proof was there. Still, she blamed Michael for the public humiliation. He could have told us privately. Instead, he made me a joke. I left that meeting more confused than ever, anger mixing with a tiny seed of doubt. Michael never pushed, he just kept showing up. He cooked my favorite meals, left little notes on the mirror. I love you even when it hurts. One evening, he handed me a thick folder. I didn't want to show you everything at once. It was too much, but you need to see it all. Inside were months of private investigator reports Michael had paid for out of his own savings, photos of Tom at hotels with other women, records of him using Emma's credit card for secret trips, and the worst part? A series of texts Tom had sent to me months earlier, flirty messages I had immediately shut down and never told Michael about because I thought I handled it. Tom had been trying to get close to me too, using Emma as a stepping stone into our family. Michael had known, and he had stayed silent until he had to act. I sat on the floor crying as the truth sank in. The betrayal wasn't just Tom's. Emma had ignored 2 anonymous warnings from Rachel months earlier. She admitted it to me later in a tearful call. She had been so desperate to have the perfect life she saw in Michael and me that she looked the other way. Jealousy had blinded her. Everything I thought I knew crumbled. The man who I accused of destroying us had actually been fighting for us all the whole time, quietly, painfully, alone. I felt my strength returning, slow and fierce. No longer the helpless wife or the broken sister. I started making calls. To lawyers, to the other victims, to the police. I stood beside Michael as we built the case. The pain was still there, but so was something new, determination. Until everything changed. I realized that the person I trusted most was the one who saved me. 3 months after the ruined wedding, we stood in a courtroom, not for a marriage, but for justice. Tom was arrested on fraud charges after Rachel and 2 other women joined the case. The evidence Michael had gathered was ironclad. I watched from the gallery as Tom's smug mask finally cracked. He looked small in his orange jumpsuit, no more fairy tale prince. Emma sat beside me, holding my hand for the first time since that awful day. She had finally seen the full folder. She had cried for hours in my arms, apologizing for the jealousy, for not listening, for blaming me. You and Michael saved me from a nightmare I was too blind to see, she whispered. The judge read the charges. Tom's lawyer tried to argue, but the proof was overwhelming. He was sentenced to 5 years. The money he had taken was frozen and returned. Emma got every cent back, plus the wedding gifts that had been held in escrow. But the real revenge wasn't the handcuffs or the courtroom. It was the quiet, satisfying kind. I stood in our backyard a few weeks later, watching Michael grill steaks the way he always did on Friday nights. Emma was there too, laughing again, helping set the table like old times. The 3 of us had talked for hours the night before, real, honest talks. She told me she was seeing a therapist. She thanked Michael through tears. "You didn't just stop a wedding," she said. "You stopped me from losing myself." I pulled Michael aside later, under the same string lights from the rehearsal dinner, the ones I thought were ruined forever. I took his face in my hands and looked into the eyes I had doubted. I was so angry. I felt so betrayed. But you protected us when I couldn't see the danger. You ruined that day so we could have 1,000 better ones. Thank you. From the bottom of my broken, healing heart, thank you. He kissed me softly, the way he did the day we got married. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. You're my forever, Sarah. Always. That night, I lay in bed replaying everything, not with pain, but with peace. I thought about the dreams I had almost let die, the baby we're trying for again, the life we're building stronger than before. Emma is dating someone new now, someone kind and honest. She calls me every Sunday like we used to. I finally understood what real love looks like. It's not always pretty or easy. Sometimes it stands up in a crowded church and says the hard thing no one wants to hear. Sometimes the person who seems to betray you is the only one brave enough to save you. The strongest revenge isn't screaming or revenge plots or destruction. It's choosing truth. It's choosing healing. It's choosing to live, to love, to thrive, brighter than before, and never, ever letting anyone steal your light again. Because sometimes the man who ruins everything is the one who gives you everything back better than you imagined. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you loved or stood by someone who saw what you couldn't, drop a comment. You're not alone. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, sometimes the truth hurts, but it also sets you free. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep your heart open, but your eyes wide.